Now, at 13 minutes past 9, it's time for Deal or No Deal.
I signed for them after the Euros, and after my first day's training I was driving home, I was actually thinking, regretting it, what have I done? Like I walked into a circus.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Normally we talk just about transfers, but because of the situation at Everton at the moment, we get to get into the Rafa Benitez succession stakes with Phil. Phil, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, lads. How are you doing?
If you're only getting this on YouTube, by the way, hit subscribe and make sure you leave a comment and share with your buddies. In the meantime, though, Frank Lampard and Wayne Rooney are both going to be among the names interviewed for the vacant Everton job. Jose Mourinho is also apparently in the mix. I don't know how that works. Does he fly in for an interview? Is it like... do you get permission from Roma to have the interviews like American football? But anyway, he says, no, I'm committed to Roma. So we'll see. We've also learned that the Belgian FA are not open to Roberto Martinez double jobbing ahead of the 2022 World Cup. They're like, no, you have a job. It's a good job. It's a very important job. The World Cup is in like 10 months. Bide your time, Roberto. You might win the World Cup. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is the possibility of each of Lampard, Rooney, Jose or Martinez getting this job?
It's such an uninspiring list. It really is. I mean, whatever all the money Everton have spent, whoever the new manager is, it's not as if Benitez had a really good squad to work with that he wasn't getting a tune out of. He wasn't getting a tune out of a squad that isn't very good anyway because they've wasted money. In terms of Mourinho, what we've seen with him recently is he's finishing jobs a lot earlier than he was previously. And he was always short term, but it was always guaranteed success. That's gone now. Roma probably not going to finish in the top 4 in Serie A, mightn't even make top 6. Lampard, obviously out of the game. Rooney at Derby. I mean, who would give a Derby manager a job in the Premier League? I mean, have Everton not looked at what happened with Chelsea? Rooney's on to a good thing at Derby in the sense that if he keeps them up, it would be the greatest of escapes given the points deduction. But
in the last week, though, that's taken a significant turn for the worse, right? They had to release Phil Jagielka, and looks like they're going to sell one of their better young players as well at the moment, and they're not quite sure if they're going to make it to the end of the month because there's 8 million quid outstanding to Middlesbrough and somebody else, and it's a bit of a shit show at the moment.
Yeah, it's an absolute mess. And while the mess is going on, they're actually getting some good results now. They play Forest at the weekend, which is a massive game for both clubs. And if Rooney was to get a result on that, then his stock continues to rise. But it'd be some gamble if Everton gave the keys to Wayne Rooney and said, here's your first Premier League gig, away you go.
Phil, could I just say, you're talking about Frank Lampard there, obviously making jokes about poor old Frank Lampard, but like, where did Frank Lampard finish in his season at Chelsea? 4th? I mean, look at Chelsea at the moment. They've Tottenham Hotspur win their 5 games in hand. 5 games in hand. They will go like 4 points ahead of Chelsea. And maybe Arsenal won't be so Arsenal-y. Is there a world in which Thomas Tuchel actually finishes lower than Frank Lampard did in 2019?
Are you talking about Champions League winning manager Thomas Tuchel?
That is the Thomas Tuchel I'm referring to.
Yeah,
Roberto Di Matteo.
Fair chance that they win. I mean, they'll fancy their chances regardless of who they play in the League Cup final. This is Chelsea, whether it's Liverpool or Arsenal, still in the FA Cup. I actually think they'll be quite a tough nut to crack in the Champions League as well. So, look, I think Tuchel has shown that he's a far better manager than Lampard. Lampard was linked with the Crystal Palace job and didn't get it. One thing he would do is if he went to Everton, he'd renew his touchline rivalry with Jurgen Klopp, because they seem to really rub each other up the wrong way. More so the Liverpool staff. You think back to that game at Anfield when...
Giving it a big one because you won the league.
Trent Alexander-Arnold stuck it in the net, and it was very awkward. And obviously we got great footage and sound quality because there was no crowd at the game. But going back to that list, I don't know if any of those...
So give me marks out of 10 here, right? So Lampard, out of 10.
I'm going to say Lampard. I would have Lampard, out of those 4, I would probably have Lampard at the top of them. In terms of...
So instead of going out of 10 here, you're power ranking them first. That's a good idea. Give us them.
Yeah, but I don't think that necessarily... I think from an Everton point of view, they're not going to be able to get Martinez. That, by the way, that's madness. He was run out of the club. So I don't really see... Like, have they not learned anything from the Benitez appointment? When you appoint a manager that's already swimming against the tide, a few results go against you and you're done. Rooney obviously has the connection with the club. So I think it's between Lampard and Rooney in that list of 4. There is other managers out there.
There are, it's true.
What about somebody like Ralph Hasenhüttl? I feel every time I big him up, they get beaten 9-0. So
Colin Boog,
that would be the worry.
Colin Boog was touting Hasenhüttl as the next Manchester United manager, that he'd be a Rangnick clone / natural successor, and that they could work together very well within the club if Rangnick was to have an expanded role. We talk about that Rangnick in a moment. So, but let's just stick with this, right? So they're not even being linked with Hasenhüttl.
No.
They're not at the moment. And maybe they will blindside us with their football intelligence at the club, which would be a first for the last long period of time. But it does seem as if they're basically checking the bookmakers to see who's on the list and going, that guy's favourite, we should talk to him. Oh no, that guy's favourite now, we should talk to him. They seem to be following the betting as opposed to leading anything.
Yeah, as I said, it's just not a very inspiring list. Jose, I said, he came back and for a while looked like things were going well at Spurs, but we knew how it was going to end, and it ended a lot quicker than we thought. He got fired the week before a cup final.
I can't believe that Mourinho is being linked with any job in the Premier League anymore.
I actually think his next job in the Premier League could be the Newcastle job, because I don't know where it's going under Eddie Howe. If Eddie Howe manages to keep them up, Mourinho, who knows in the summer how things would have panned out with Roma. People love Mourinho because he's a name. But and clubs like Newcastle and Everton...
The football's no good. Surely Newcastle are realising that they're going to have to play good football to keep the fans coming and to turn the brand into... If you're going to sports wash, you need sports wash with relatively attractive football.
Yeah, absolutely. But so Mourinho keeps getting linked to these jobs because people love the pull... Like the name of Mourinho, it gets interest in your club. Look at, even like Tottenham. If you told me a few years ago that Mourinho would be a Tottenham manager, I would have absolutely laughed at you. And then there he was. He was going in to replace their best manager in the modern era.
I do wonder how much George Mendes's ability to get his clients mentioned and to be able to get jobs, and I think that has something to do with that as well. So okay. Other managers, other possibilities?
Well, I mentioned Hasenhüttl, but the one thing is Southampton have just got more like the new ownership essentially, so he might be promised a little bit more, and he's onto a good thing there with Southampton. Like Southampton are in a better place than Everton right now. Obviously Everton is a much bigger club, but whoever gets it, they've got a serious job in their hands because they're moving into the new stadium. They want to make sure when they move into that new stadium in 2024, that's the proposed date, that
have they turned the sod on that yet?
They have the fans on board, that they can fill this stadium.
Yeah.
So they've spent so much money.
So I actually think Rooney is the more likely at this point.
I think Rooney would be a good, is the best of that list that you go to there. The traditional 4, if you want to call it that. Certainly a better option. He's certainly a better option than Martinez. That would be a farcical appointment, regardless of how good a manager he is. You can't go back to the standard at which he left the club, or even the relationship between the fans.
Yeah.
Which he left. That's worse than being a former Liverpool manager.
Well, David Moyes did go back to West Ham and has been successful. He was sacked.
There was no protest against David Moyes before he left West Ham. There was a protest against Roberto Martinez.
I know, but maybe the Everton fans have learned a bit.
They still have the banners. They're ready to go again if they have to.
Are Everton fans are they? Is there a level of insecurity here where they're like, oh, this guy was good enough for Belgium, we just didn't know what we had?
I don't think so. I think international football and the Premier League are so different. And let's not forget, the night that Roberto Martinez was appointed Belgian manager, we were all shocked. Wasn't there an incident where news filtered through to Lukaku and he was sitting on a bench somewhere, and I don't know if they were linked, where he was laughing almost like, this is ridiculous.
Okay, so that you all think that's unlikely. Fair enough, right?
Jose Mourinho would be a bad appointment, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I think if you're that club ownership who are under so much stress and hassle, and you're talking about the stadium and they're trying to sell corporate boxes and all that shit that it actually feeds into the decisions, appointing Rooney will be one of those emotional overreaction fan decisions. But actually, Rooney's football intelligence is very, very high, and his ability to explain stuff seems quite high.
What about Wayne Rooney and what he's on to this season, though? Like, is he looking around and he's like, this thing's actually working out? Because this would be, as you put it the other day, Ger, one of the best stories in English football.
Like,
ever.
I literally think it's one of the. It is 21 points in the bear pit of the championship, where we all understand how difficult it is to succeed or fail in that league, and the amount of money that's sloshing around that league. To be losing Phil Jagielka this week, where they have to release him because of the money, and it's like that would be insane for him to be able to pull that off. But I think that it looks like they might be liquidated and they might not exist. That's
Makes
on the
story
cards
even
at the
better.
moment. But that's likely to happen
In the summer?
No,
Or right now?
no. In the next,
Well, I suppose liquidation doesn't necessarily play by the football calendar's rules.
exactly. In the next few weeks, that could happen. So, I would love to see him stay. I think it would be the best narrative. But actually, there might be just a window here where he goes, "Yeah, all right. Oh look, I'm sorry, lads. I gotta go." And young Knight, you can come too.
But like you talk about swimming against the tide there, Phil. Wayne Rooney is swimming against the tide, and he's like got one of those jets on his back, and he is like, everybody's like, he's beating the tide. How is this human able to do it? And like, not that he would have the tide on his back, if you keep this analogy going, at Everton for sure, because the fans would love him. But like, what he is doing this season is so good, or potentially so good, that you got to stay and see it out. Like, that just increases your candidacy for
Any job.
If
It's
he
true,
can,
yeah.
though, he might not be able to.
There might not be a club.
Yeah, but he's playing with house money now, Phil.
It is house money.
Yeah, and look, I think what he's doing at Derby is great in terms of. But if he wasn't succeeding at Derby in terms of they were losing every week, then people would say, well, look at the hand he's been dealt.
Yeah.
So he's onto a good one in terms of, it's not a good one, but
Either way.
in a way it is, where the expectations
pressure.
are so low. But
Okay.
you go into Everton and the expectations are so high because they're looking across the road going, these lads are laughing at us.
Yeah, they are. But you bring Wayne Rooney in, and it has the immediate impact of everybody paying attention to Everton again, which is not happening at the moment. Like that all matters. That all feeds into.
Yeah.
We know that the decision to sign Pogba, part of the decision-making process was the social following. We know that the decision to sign Ronaldo was legacy protecting, advertising, revenue, blah 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 blah. Right? Like bringing home Wayne Rooney again.
It sounds, Ger, like there's
power there.
You have a social post ready to go with Wayne Rooney scoring that goal against Arsenal and Clive Tilsey going, remember the name.
That will be shared all around if he comes back. Like, what would be his first piece of business when he comes back into the club? I would argue that maybe signing a left back, maybe go to Aston Villa and get Luca Dean in, potentially could be a nice piece of business for Everton
They have a
Football
left
Club.
back, Kalenko.
He should get Kilban into the backroom team.
Like, there is so much more than
Ferguson, actually.
Yeah, there's so much more than Rafa that suggests that this club is not an attractive prospect to be a manager at.
But Benitez went in and stripped them of people that were working in the club, brought in his own people, and now they've been sacked this week. So it's an absolute shambles. So then again, Wayne Rooney is working in an absolute shambles at the moment.
I think do you know, it makes some sense. Now,
Yeah.
the decision is such a big decision because they could easily get sucked into a relegation battle here. Everybody's, they're too good to go down, but like their performance the weekend, not too good to go down.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you'll see a reaction from them this weekend against Villa. Big dunk will get them fired up. I just think having Benitez there, you wouldn't hear it from the players, but I'd say, and I remember listening to one of Seamus Coleman's first interviews when Benitez was appointed, and of course in true Seamus Coleman
there was definitely subtext, wasn't there?
fashion, he spoke highly of and respectful of Rafa Benitez, but surely when Benitez came in there was players looking around going, we don't want this guy. Like, not only is he a former Liverpool manager, but his brand of football it's not very attractive and it's a bit dated, and people say, he did a good job at Newcastle, and if he was still at Newcastle they wouldn't be in the trouble that they're in. But the game has moved on, and I think Benitez and his tactics were not easy on the eyes. So I think
I do think though that if you're going to give Benitez, if you're going to get him in, you're going to have to give him a season to get his team throughput and to get rid of the dead wood as he sees it, and to like at least give him the opportunity to do that. And then they obviously lost faith on the back of that, and it wasn't just the Norwich game, but I felt like they could have ridden the Benitez situation out, and he would have brought them to safety this year. And then next transfer window, he's got a full season. It's his lieutenants who are on the field. Like, I don't think Benitez is as bad a manager as he's shown in this period of time. I think that Everton being a basket case is what I have some sympathy with the Guillaume Balaga tweet thread. And I have some sympathy with Benitez going, I didn't realise the situation was as bad as it is. I do have some sympathy with that. Now, maybe this makes Carlo Ancelotti an absolute genius. I don't know.
Like, if Rafa Benitez hadn't been the man that they sacked, we would be talking about Rafa Benitez as a potential replacement for Everton. Like, so we can't just allow...
But sure, that was my whole point. It should never have come to that. When he was first linked with that job...
Just because of the Liverpool stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. And
I don't
people might say that's small-minded, but I just think that you don't want a Liverpool manager coming into Everton. And I feel the same that when Rodgers has been linked with Manchester United... Same again. And look, you see it in other leagues where there's no problem. Managers switch over, it's fine. But I just think that straight away, Benitez was walking into Everton and people already, the banners were made already. And they obviously got their outing over the last few weeks.
All right.
And that was that.
Anthony Martial is trying to get out of Manchester in this window. We know that there was a row. There was a difference of opinion about who said what to who when. And they seem to have made peace now. Fabrizio Romano says he will not move to another English club. Barcelona, Sevilla and Juventus are all interested. Overnight, Juventus have emerged as the frontrunners to sign him. Who should buy Martial? How high is his ceiling at 26 years of age? And what's he worth?
It's the reason that he won't go to another Premier League club is because they've seen him play and maybe they don't want to sign him because he's been dreadful for the last few seasons and there's potential there. And obviously we remember how he announced his arrival to United and all that money that they paid for him. I think his best position, I've always felt, is still playing out wide on the left. There's definitely a role there in the Juventus team. Something like they tend to play with a three up front. Chiesa is no longer part of that three now because of his cruciate injury. So he's good enough to get into the Juve team. He's 26. Maybe a change would be good for him. But, I don't think he's going to be one of those players. He might get back into he can always get back into the French squad, but I don't think he's going to be the player that we all thought when United bought him and paid that money for him, that this kid was going to be an absolute superstar. I think he'll have a fine career, but I don't think he's ever going to reach those levels that we had hoped that he would do.
He could go to the Bundesliga or Ajax, perhaps, another Champions League team, and succeed there where others have a well-worn path. Okay, so what's he worth?
Well, they probably get... Juve are usually pretty good at negotiating, so probably 30 million would they? United need to clear players off the books.
Yeah, I'd take like 10 million for these. Just, all right. It's a loss. We will amortise this over the coming years. Our accountants can work out how to make this look like less of a shit show. Let's go, because it's just a bloated squad full of players who are pissed off. Okay, Manchester United have acknowledged that Pogba is playing for a big transfer. This is what Rangnick said. He's going to be professional. He's going to put it in over the next 3 months to try and get more money for himself. Can you see him making an impact once he's fit, which apparently is right now, right? We're saying Rangnick is like, he's fully fit, ready to go. Where will he end up? Will he win a Champions League in the next 5 years, Phil?
If he goes to Real Madrid, he has a chance, yeah. But again, another player that they have to get rid of because, 2016, the summer of 2016, he made the move. Here we are, January 2022, and has anyone found out where Paul Pogba's best position is? I feel like I've been stuck in a world of that conversation for the last 6 years and I don't have the fight anymore.
We were having this conversation earlier, Phil. Does he play in the 2 or the 2?
I think he plays in the middle 2.
Yeah, thank you. Oh no, is that what I say?
Yeah, so
thank you.
But
okay,
Pogba's great when things are going well.
So he's going to play out the rest of the season. Is he going to play well?
He'll play well. If United are playing well, Pogba will probably look pretty good. If United are playing badly, then Pogba will get a lot of criticism. I think at times he gets way too much criticism. I think we've seen since he's arrived at the club, Pogba is not the reason United are in the situation they are in at the moment. He's one of the factors, but certainly not one of the main factors like a lot of people seem to want to think.
What impact will John McGinn make at Old Trafford if he signs in the summer for Manchester United?
He would definitely improve them, but with all due respect to John McGinn, is he the kind of player that Manchester United need to get right back to the top? Or are they at a stage now where they can't get to the top right now? So they have to get to the next level? Because at the moment, Obviously, City are head and shoulders above everyone. Liverpool are the closest to them, then Chelsea. So United have to get to Chelsea, then they have to get to Liverpool, and then they have to get to Manchester City. So is McGinn what you would call a bridging signing where he can definitely improve you? I just think their biggest issue is not that kind of midfielder, but a midfielder that can basically protect your back four. And I would like to see like a 4-3-3 where then you play a 6 and 2 8s. And that's where somebody like McTominay, who gets a lot of stick from United fans, but he's never going to control a game for you. You need somebody that can run a game for you and protect. And then
Douglas Luiz.
Oh, like,
Are they looking at the wrong midfielder here?
I don't know. The Villa fans are out on Douglas Luiz at the moment, which is crazy to me. I think you're.
I like him, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. And he's still very young. He's still got a good way to go. I think with McGinn, it seems to be important. The character aspect of the whole transfer, that seems to be like the dressing room culture needs to change. So you need to get somebody in like him, which I'm always a little bit like, this guy might not be good enough for the team, but we're going to buy him, we're going to play him week in, week out. How does that actually improve the culture of the team if someone who isn't good enough to get in the team, do you know? But
he is good enough to get in the team at the moment.
Is Fernandes looking at him going, yeah, that's exactly what maybe he is. Maybe he's the perfect player for Fernandes. So in the summer, Ronaldo goes. In the summer, Pogba's gone. In the summer, Lingard is gone. Martial is gone. And you do need then players who are more mature than, it seems, from a footballing perspective, Rashford and Greenwood to set the tone week in, week out in matches and in training. You've got suddenly McGinn and McTominay, and you've got stand up good players who are also
honest
good men
players.
And Fred,
as
and
John Giles would say, honest players.
Honesty of effort. Very quickly, Newcastle have reportedly offered 30 million to Atalanta for Colombian striker Duvan Zapata. Separately, Mario Balotelli, what age is he?
31.
You're reading off the screen. Mario Balotelli, 31, is currently playing for Adana Demirspor in Turkey, where the club president says Newcastle are trying to sign him.
Nice.
I mean, this would be amazing.
Nice.
See, this goes back. This is almost like the Mourinho conversation where people want to sign somebody like Balotelli because they think he's a big name. We've got it. You know, we've arrived now. We can sign a player like Balotelli. Zapata now would be a good signing. You would have seen him play for Atalanta against United. He scored in the game in Bergamo. He was on the bench, came off the bench at Old Trafford, and he played against Liverpool last season. Now he is a good striker. He would definitely improve Newcastle. Balotelli, when you're in a relegation battle,
No,
absolutely not. Look, Balotelli had his chance after he signed for Liverpool. This is your chance. Suarez is gone. Now can you be the main man at Liverpool in attack? And no.
Do you know what we should do? On the show tomorrow morning, we should create a football club from scratch to be the most shambolic version of a football club possible. Who would be your striker? Balotelli would be the striker. Jose Mourinho would be your manager. Aubameyang would be at the club.
Mesut Ozil's coming out.
Mesut Ozil is definitely coming back to the club.
How would you feel about Marco Arnautovic coming in, or because of him and Mourinho's previous?
Arnautovic on the bench for sure.
Was it Nasri who tweeted the picture of him?
Samir Nasri, and then bring in that great IV company in to be your doctors.
Exactly, that would work. On a scale of 1 to 10 at the moment, how likely are Newcastle to go down? Because it's, Norwich did a bit fruity at the weekend.
Yeah, that was like the Watford equaliser was a sickener for Newcastle, but I think Newcastle are going to stay up. I think there's a few more players to come in. There's talk of Carlos, the Sevilla defender, coming in. They'll sign probably 2 or 3 more players, so I think they'll be all right. I think I'm sticking with the 3 that I picked at the start of the season: Norwich, Watford and Burnley to go down. So.
Okay, Burnley certainly look like when you're selling your best striker to your relegation rivals, it looks like some kind of decision has been made somewhere along the way that losses are being cut. Very quickly, right? Leicester and Newcastle are the latest English clubs to be linked with Christian Eriksen. The Dane was fitted with a cardioverter defibrillator following his collapse at Euro 2020, which makes him ineligible to play in Italy, but English rules would allow him to return to the Premier League. Where do you see him ending up? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are we to see a fly-on-the-wall documentary of his comeback journey with a Premier League club on a major streaming platform in the next 18 months?
Well, Brentford seems to be the name that's coming up a lot, obviously because of the Danish connection with Brentford. Obviously, the owners involved in Midtjylland as well. The documentary, I mean, I think I'd be more interested to see a documentary on why professional footballers, it seems that there is more and more heart issues with players. And by the way, I'm not I'm definitely not implying it's to do with COVID. This is obviously something that has happened. Is it the fact that maybe one of the COVID issues is the schedules obviously are busier, but the pace of the game is played at. I would like to know why we're starting to see more and more of this. The Christian Eriksen story, if he does get a move to the Premier League and it works out, then yeah, it's a documentary that would interest a lot of people. But I think there has to be a conversation or something into what's going on with footballers and heart issues, because I watched the Sergio Aguero press conference a few weeks ago, and it's devastating to watch a guy that just realised that that's it.
Yeah.
I'll never play football again.
At least it was at the end of his career as opposed to in the middle of it as well. Shane says, is Grealish a flop too? Because we were saying Jadon Sancho was a flop earlier on. You can definitely paint it that Grealish is a flop, but Manchester City are at the stage where they can absorb somebody being a flop, certainly in their first season. There is also a track record of players not being great at Man City in their first season and then coming good over a period of time. So I'm not saying that they would be cutting their losses on him just yet, but you wouldn't rule out the possibility that Grealish is available for a cut price 35 to 40 million in 18 months, would you?
No, but the thing is, like, Grealish is still young enough to be a sponge. Jadon Sancho is definitely a sponge. Unfortunately, he is absorbing Manchester United, and Jack Grealish is absorbing Manchester City's culture. One of those players is going to get it better quicker than the other.
And one of them's going to have a fair few medals around his neck as well.
Yeah, at the end of this season.
Yeah.
So far, Rangnick has been shown up by Eddie Howe, Ruben Lage and Steven Gerrard, all young managers, new in the door clubs with worse squads. Tough to say that Rangnick has impressed. And John says, I think nearly 3 years of bad management by Ole has a lot to do with it. The tail has been wagging the dog for far too long at United. Too many average players, too much dead wood around the place. That's today's Deal or No Deal. Thanks, Will.